Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are grappling with a concept that usually stays in the abstract until the very end, the deadline.
Right.
And I don't mean a work deadline or, a tax filing date. I mean the ultimate deadline, the literal end of the line.
Mm.
We're talking about that finality that hangs over every human life, but, usually we have the luxury of just ignoring it.
It is the one deadline we all share. But the thing is, we don't know when it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the mercy of mortality. It's ignorance. We just walk around assuming we have all the time in the world.
Exactly.
But the case study we're looking at today, it just removes that mercy entirely. It rips away the blindfold, and it forces the protagonist to stare directly at the clock.
We are diving into Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. And on the surface, this is a text that kind of masquerades as a young adult thriller, but when you peel back the layers, which is exactly what we're going to do, it's actually a brutal deconstruction of the whole whodunit genre.
Oh,
Usually you have the detective and you have the victim. They're two totally separate entities.
It really is an inversion. In a traditional murder mystery, the victim is, well, they're an object, aren't they? A prop.
Right, the body in the library.
Exactly. The body in the library or the corpse on the morgue slab. They have no voice, no agency, and their secrets are sort of excavated by strangers long after they're gone.
But in this story...
In this story, the victim is the detective.
Yeah.
The victim is the one doing the excavating, and she's doing it while her own body is actively, shutting down.
It's such a fascinating premise. Let's set the scene. Because the atmosphere here is it's heavy with irony. It's Halloween in Woodstock, Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
So you can picture it. Beautiful fall foliage, crisp air. It's very picturesque, the kind of town where people go to look at leaves and, drink cider.
It's the quintessential fall setting. It's cozy. It's supposed to be safe. It's the kind of place where bad things just aren't supposed to happen.
And that contrast is so stark, isn't it?
It provides this perfect, stark contrast to the violence that's about to unfold.
Exactly. And our protagonist is Jet, which is short for Margaret Mason. It's October 31st. She decides to dress up as a zombie.
Of course she does.
She puts on the rotting skin mask, the tattered clothes. She is, for all intents and purposes, playing at being undead. She's making jokes about eating brains.
And then the universe just throws it right back in her face.
A horrific joke. Mere hours later, she's brutally attacked, left for dead, and effectively becomes the very thing she was pretending to be.
It's a classic narrative device, that situational irony, but here it serves a much deeper sort of psychological purpose. It really highlights Jet's cynicism.
How so?
Well, before the attack, she treats death as a costume, a joke. She's mocking it. After the attack, she has no choice but to look it right in the eye.
So our mission today is to unpack this just impossible timeline. We're looking at a murder mystery where the victim has 7 days to solve her own killing before a ticking clock inside her skull just hits zero.
And we have a lot of sources to synthesize here. We've got the timeline of the night itself, the medical reports on her injuries, which are fascinatingly grim.
Right. And the digital forensics from her devices, plus the psychological profiles of a very, very messy suspect list.
Exactly. We aren't just looking at a crime scene. We are looking at a medical anomaly, a miracle and a curse, all rolled into one.
That medical side is something we really need to dig into. The miracle that keeps her alive is also the very thing that's killing her.
It's a gruesome but fascinating medical paradox.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The incident. It's Halloween night. Jet is at the town fair. Now, based on the character notes, where is Jet in her life at this moment? Because she's 27, and it doesn't really seem like she's thriving.
Not at all. She is in a state of what psychologists might call arrested development. She's 27 years old, she's a law school dropout, and she's living in her childhood bedroom.
In her parents' wealthy estate.
Exactly. She calls herself a professional procrastinator. She feels like a complete failure, especially when she compares herself to the rest of her family.
The Masons, and they sound like quite the piece of work.
Oh, the Masons are your classic small-town dynasty. The mother, Diane, she's a village trustee. She's very conscious of public image, very controlling.
And the brother?
The brother, Luke, is the heir apparent. He's running the family construction business. And then there's Jet. She's the outlier. She's the disappointment.
So that dynamic is already isolating her.
It's crucial. It isolates her even before the violence starts. She feels like she doesn't belong in her own family, in her own home.
So she's at this fair. She runs into her ex-boyfriend, J.J. Lim, and he's dressed as Chucky.
Which is a A terrifying costume choice in hindsight, given what happens next.
Yeah, no kidding. He's desperate to talk to her. He keeps saying it's important. He seems really frantic.
But Jet does what she always does. She avoids.
She blows him off. Avoidance is her default setting. She has a snippy little exchange with her brother, Luke, who seems stressed out of his mind about something. She just feels out of place, so she goes home early.
And this is where the timeline gets really rigid. We move from these vague social interactions to cold, hard data. She arrives at the Mason estate, this big, ostentatious house her father built, at exactly 10:39 p.m.
And we know this because of the Ring doorbell.
Precisely. The camera logs her entry. The house is empty. The rest of the family is still at the fair or maybe packing up. She goes into the kitchen.
Right, and she eats a pumpkin cookie that her sister-in-law, Sophia, baked. She's just standing there scrolling through Instagram.
Just think about that moment. It is so incredibly mundane.
Totally normal.
She's looking at photos of her friends' perfect lives, probably feeling sorry for herself. Her guard is completely down. She feels safe in her parents' kitchen. And that is when the attack happens.
And this isn't a fight. I think that's really important to distinguish. It's not a scuffle or an argument that gets out of hand.
No, not at all. This is an execution attempt. The forensics are very, very clear on this. She is struck from behind.
She never saw it coming.
Never. The first two blows hit the occipital bone. That's the back of the skull. These blows are meant to drop her. And they do. She falls straight to the floor.
And then
The attacker leans over her. The third blow strikes the left side of her head. This is the finisher. This wasn't a panic attack. This was someone making sure she did not get up again.
they wanted her dead.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there was a witness.
A silent witness?
Her dog, Reggie.
What?
Little cocker spaniel. The neighbors reported hearing the dog screaming.
That detail really stuck with me. Not barking. Screaming.
Dogs scream when they are in pure terror or pain. It suggests the level of violence in that room was visceral enough to traumatize the animal. It completely changes the atmosphere of the crime.
And that screaming is the only reason she's alive.
The only reason. Her neighbor and childhood friend, Billy Finney, hears the dog. He runs over. He kicks the door and literally fractures the door frame and finds her lying there in a pool of blood.
If he hadn't.
She would have bled out on the road. No question about it. The timing of his arrival is the only reason we have a story to tell at all.
So that brings us to segment 1, the diagnosis and the choice. Jet wakes up in the hospital. It is now Sunday, November 2nd. She's lost nearly 2 full days.
And she wakes up thinking, I survived. The worst is over.
But then Dr. Lee walks in, and the news is, well, it's complicated.
This is where we need to get a little technical to really understand the stakes. Jet has a subdural hematoma, which is bleeding on the brain, and a longitudinal fracture of that occipital bone.
The one in the back?
Yes, they've patched the skull with titanium mesh and screws. That's all standard trauma response. But there is a critical and very rare complication. Deep in the center of her brain is a bone called the clivus.
The clivus, it sounds ancient.
It is. It's a bone at the very base of the skull. It looks a bit like a slide. In fact, clivus is Latin for slope. It sits deep in the center of the head, and it is incredibly hard to break. Usually, if you break your clivus, the force required is so high that the brainstem is severed. You die instantly.
So it's almost unheard of to survive a clivus fracture.
With full cognitive function. Almost unheard of. But Jet did. However, a tiny fragment of that clivus has broken off. And this little fragment is resting directly against her basilar artery.
And the basilar artery that's the main pipeline, right? Supplying blood to the brain.
Exactly. It feeds the brainstem, the cerebellum, the occipital lobes. It is absolutely vital. Now, a normal patient, a surgeon might say, okay, let's go in and remove that bone fragment before it punctures the artery.
But Jet is not a normal patient.
Not at all. She has a hereditary condition called polycystic kidney disease, or PKD.
Which she shares with her dad. I thought PKD just affected the kidneys, though.
That's a common misconception. PKD is a systemic connective tissue disorder. It causes cysts in the kidneys, yes, but it also weakens the walls of your blood vessels throughout your entire body.
So her arteries are weak.
They're like wet tissue paper. They just lack the structural integrity of a normal vessel.
So, okay, paint the picture for us. You have a sharp piece of bone pressing against a paper-thin artery.
It is a ticking time bomb. Dr. Lee explains that the friction of her own pulse, just the blood pumping through that artery day in and day out, is rubbing it against that sharp bone shard. An aneurysm will form.
It's not a maybe.
It is a mechanical certainty,
Yeah.
and because her arterial walls are so weak, when that aneurysm forms, it will rupture almost immediately.
And a ruptured basilar artery.
It's fatal. It causes a massive brain bleed. It lights out. There's absolutely no coming back from that.
So Dr. Lee presents her with two options, and neither of them is you get to live a long and happy life.
No. Option A is immediate surgery. They try to go in and pluck that little bone shard off the artery. But because the artery is so fragile, and because the location is so deep within the skull,
The risk is huge.
the risk of rupturing it during surgery is over 90%. If they operate, she almost certainly dies right there on the table, unconscious.
Okay, and option B,
Option B is do nothing. Wait. The aneurysm will form and rupture on its own. Dr. Lee estimates, based on the position of the shard and her blood pressure, that she has about 7 days from the time of the injury.
so she dies in a week.
She dies in a week. However, until that rupture happens, she is relatively stable. She can walk, she can talk, she can think.
She's essentially a walking corpse with a 7-day expiration date.
Exactly.
Oh.
But she has agency during those 7 days. She is conscious.
And this is the real crux of her character arc, isn't it? Her family, her mom, dad, Luke, they are just screaming for the surgery.
Of course.
They're desperate for that, that less than 10% chance of survival. They cannot fathom letting her just walk out of the hospital to die.
It's the rational response from loved ones, right? Do something, fix it. They want to fight for life, even if the odds are absolutely terrible. But Jet
That's different.
looks at her life. She looks at the 27 years she feels she's completely wasted. She looks at her professional procrastinator label. And she makes a decision that is both terrifying and strangely empowering.
She chooses later.
She leans into her own flaw. It's incredible. She literally says, I'll die later. She refuses the surgery.
It's such a punk rock move, honestly. But her motivation is just heartbreaking. She feels like she's done absolutely nothing with her life. She dropped out of law school. She lives at home.
She feels like a failure.
Yeah. And she wants to do one big thing before the lights go out. She wants to solve her own murder.
And that completely redefines the stakes of the story. This isn't just a whodunit anymore. It's a quest for meaning.
She's trying to validate her entire existence in 7 days.
Exactly. She realizes that if she dies on that operating table, she leaves this world as a victim, an unsolved mystery, a footnote. But if she takes the 7 days, she has a chance to change the whole narrative.
So she checks herself out against medical advice, obviously, and goes right back to the scene of the crime. This brings us to segment 2, the evidence and the timeline.
She walks back into that house with Jack Finney. Now, Jack is Billy's dad, and he's a sergeant in the police force. He's known Jet her whole life, so he kind of bends the rules for her.
He lets her see it before it's cleaned.
He does. He walks her through the crime scene, and it's a bloodbath. I mean, seeing your own blood all over the floor, that has to be a deeply dissociative experience.
I can't even imagine.
But looking at the scene gives us the first real clues. First, the entry. The front door was locked and monitored by that Ring camera. The killer did not come in that way. But the side laundry door,
Unlocked.
Jet admits there's probably a 75% chance she just forgot to lock it. Her parents use it, the cleaners use it. It's the soft underbelly of the house's security.
So the killer knew about that weakness, or they just got really lucky.
It implies one of the two. And they're the missing items. This is huge.
Right. The killer didn't take jewelry, they didn't take cash.
No. They took the weapon, which we'll get to, and they took Jet's iPhone 14.
Taking the phone is such a specific move. It suggests there is something on that phone the killer does not want anyone to see.
Or they're just trying to prevent her from calling for help. Either way, it turns the phone into this kind of black box that we absolutely need to find.
But Jet is smart.
Yeah.
She realizes she still has her Apple Watch. And the police detective Ecker, who's a bit of a, stiff suit, they haven't fully analyzed it yet.
She gives them the passcode, but she also looks at the data herself. And this is what creates our solid timeline.
This is the digital forensics portion, and it's incredibly precise.
It is. The Apple Watch tracks heart rate. At 10:46 p.m. on Friday night, Jet's heart rate spikes to 158 beats per minute.
158. That is full-blown panic mode.
That is the physiological fight-or-flight response kicking in instantly. That is the moment of the first blow. We have the time of the attack down to the minute.
10:46 p.m.
Precisely. Then the heart rate plummets as she loses consciousness. But the watch also gives us communication data. At 10:48 p.m., 2 minutes later, she gets a mundane text from her mom about some chairs.
Which she obviously doesn't read.
No. But then, at 10:58 p.m., 12 minutes after the attack, She receives a text from a contact she has saved as "Don't pick up."
Which is her ex, JJ Lim, and the text just says,
Mhm.
just one word, sorry. That is chilling. Why is her ex-boyfriend texting her an apology 12 minutes after someone bashed her head in?
Is he apologizing for the attack? Or is it the world's worst coincidence?
And where is the phone? They used Find My iPhone. The last data ping from the device was at 10:56 p.m.
2 minutes before that sorry text comes through.
Right, and the location, the corner of River Street and North Street. Then the phone was turned off manually.
That location is crucial. River Street and North Street. It's not a random spot in the woods. It's a specific intersection. We have to ask, why there?
Did the killer toss it out a car window? Or is that where they were going?
And there is one more piece of physical evidence from the scene that Jack Stinney shows her a photo of. A hair.
Right. But not just any hair. It was found underneath the pool of Jet's blood.
That sequencing is so vital. It means the hair was on the floor before she bled on it. It implies it fell during the attack or just before.
And it's not human hair. It's red, it's synthetic, it's straight, and it's about 5 inches long.
It's a wig hair.
Which immediately ties the crime to the Halloween fair. Someone was wearing a red wig.
And that leads us perfectly into segment 3, the suspects. We have a timeline, we have a wig hair, and we have a very weird text message. Let's start pinning some photos to the murder board.
Suspect number 1 has to be JJ Lim, the ex-boyfriend.
He checks a lot of boxes, doesn't he?
He really does. He was at the fair. He was wearing a costume Chucky from Child's Play. And Chucky wears
A red wig. A red synthetic wig, to be precise.
We also know his behavior was erratic. He was frantic to talk to Jet, saying it was important. He sends that bizarre sorry text right after the murder.
And most damningly of all, he is currently missing. He skipped town on Halloween night and just hasn't been seen since.
It looks bad. It looks really, really bad. Flight is usually a pretty strong indicator of guilt.
But it's interesting. Jet doesn't feel like it's him. She knows him. She just doesn't see this kind of violence in him. But the evidence, the evidence is screaming his name.
However, he isn't the only one who was wearing a red wig that night. Enter suspect number 2, Andrew Smith.
The disgruntled neighbor. This guy's a tragic figure, but he's also kind of scary.
He was at the fair dressed as a scary clown, and guess what the clown costume included?
A red wig.
Of course. And unlike JJ, Andrew Smith has a very clear, very loud motive. He hates the Mason family with a passion.
He's an alcoholic, his life is completely fallen apart, and he blames them for every bit of it.
And there's this deep, dark history here. His daughter, Nina, committed suicide the previous year.
Right, and Nina was best friends with Jet's sister, Emily.
Andrew claims that Jet's mom, Diane, who is a village trustee and a bit of a power broker, got Nina fired from her job right before she died. He blames Diane for pushing his daughter over the edge.
And then there's the property dispute on top of that. Andrew used to live in a house on North Street. He claims Luke Mason, Jet's brother, pressured him into selling it for way less than it was worth.
And then Luke just demolished Andrew's family home to build this massive new project. Andrew feels like the Masons have erased him.
He was drunk at the fair, screaming that the Masons destroy everything they touch. He has the rage.
But he claims he has an alibi.
A weak one. He says he was passed out drunk. He did text a friend at 10:29 p.m., which is about 17 minutes before the attack.
17 minutes is plenty of time to walk or run to the Mason house. That's not an alibi, it's just a timestamp.
Exactly. But Andrew drops a bombshell during his conversation with Jet. He brings up this rumor, something he heard from the police chief's wife, of all people, Nell Jankowski.
What's the rumor?
He claims that Jet's dad isn't going to leave the construction company to Luke. He's planning to sell it to Nell instead.
Whoa. Okay. That pivots us directly to suspect number 3, Luke Mason, the brother.
Luke is under immense pressure. He's managing this massive new construction project, the one on Andrew's old land. He is desperate to prove himself to his father.
So if he found out his dad was selling the company out from under him, that's a motive for patricide maybe, but soricide, killing his sister.
Well, unless she was an obstacle somehow. Jet is the other heir. Or maybe it's just about money. But here is the physical evidence against Luke. He has fresh scabs all over his knuckles.
And he has a story for it.
He does. He claims he tripped at a construction site on Friday morning. But Jet and her friend Billy look at photos from the Halloween fair, which is Friday night, and Luke's hands are perfectly clean. No scabs.
He's lying. He's lying about how and when he injured his hands. Why lie if you have nothing to hide?
Exactly. And then there's a wild card suspect. Suspect number 4, the debt.
Right. Out of nowhere, Jet gets a letter in the mail. a late notice for a $30,000 loan taken out in her name against her truck.
A loan she never took out. It's identity theft.
So is it a coincidence? Or did someone steal her identity, take the money, and then try to kill her to cover their tracks?
Or is the killer someone who just needed money that desperately? It opens up a whole new can of worms.
It's a tangled web. But Jet isn't working alone. Which brings us to segment 4. The investigation escalates. She teams up with Billy Finney.
Billy is really the heart of this story. He's the childhood best friend, the boy next door. They drifted apart, but this tragedy just slams them back together.
And he becomes her caretaker, really.
He does. He changes her head dressings, which is, pretty gross. The wound is literally leaking fluid. He drives her around. He lets her crash at his apartment to escape her suffocating family. He's her rock.
He's her Watson. And he's also, surprise, a really talented singer and guitarist. Jet sees him perform at the bar where he works and is just blown away. It's a nice little human moment amidst all the horrors.
It is. But back to the case. They go to see Owen Clay, a local teenager who took a bunch of photos at the fair.
To confirm the wigs.
Exactly. And they do. They see clear photos of J.J. Lim in the Chucky wig and Andrew Smith in the clown wig. And the wigs are identical red, synthetic, straight hair. Probably bought from the same party store or, the same Amazon listing.
So it confirms there are at least 2 people who match the trace evidence found at the scene.
Right. But the real breakthrough comes from geography. Jet is just obsessing over where her phone pinged last. River Street and North Street.
She goes there, she drives it, she walks it.
And she realizes something. The construction site. Luke's massive project, the one built on Andrew Smith's old land, is right there at the end of North Street.
And Jet learns a crucial detail from the site foreman, a guy named Jimmy. The concrete foundation for the garage was poured on Saturday morning.
The morning after the murder.
It's the perfect disposal site.
If you killed someone on Friday night and you knew, either because you worked for the company or you'd been watching the site, that a massive slab of concrete was being poured Saturday morning, that is the perfect place to dispose of evidence.
It's the Jimmy Hoffa theory. Bury it in the foundation. So, Jet, being Jet, doesn't call the police and wait around for a warrant.
Oh no, she grabs a sledgehammer.
This scene is incredible. She is literally dying. Her brain is fragile. She should be resting. Instead, she is out there swinging a 12-pound sledgehammer into freshly cured concrete.
Billy tries to stop her, then realizes he can't, so he just joins in. They are physically smashing up her brother's multi-million-dollar project.
Luke shows up and absolutely loses his mind. He's screaming at them to stop, but they keep digging. And then, segment 5, the discovery.
They finally break through the concrete to the dirt beneath. And they find a bundle.
Wrapped in a dirty dish towel. But not just any towel. It has this distinct pattern of oranges on it. And Jet recognizes it immediately.
It's from her mother's kitchen.
That is just devastating. It means the killer was in the house, they grabbed a towel from the kitchen to wrap the evidence, and then they took it with them.
It connects the disposal site directly to the crime scene. It's the smoking gun.
And inside the towel, 2 things. First, Jet's smashed iPhone 14.
And second, a hammer.
A hammer with the brand name Colby on it. This is the murder weapon. It fits the injuries perfectly. A blunt object heavy enough to fracture a skull.
The police arrive, and Detective Ecker is furious, by the way. He's going on about how Jet has trampled all over the chain of custody.
He's worried a defense lawyer will get the evidence thrown out because a civilian dug it up.
And he has a point, legally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But morally. She did it. She solved it. She found the weapon.
But Ecker throws a wet blanket on their celebration. He brings up the wig hair again. He suggests that the red hair at the scene could be transfer evidence.
Right. He says, maybe you just bumped into JJ at the fair, a hair stuck to your jacket, and then it fell off when you were attacked at home.
Which would mean the killer doesn't have to be the one wearing the wig. It widens the suspect list again.
It's a valid forensic point, but it feels like a deflection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have the weapon, we have the disposal site, and the disposal site is a Mason construction site that strongly points to someone with intimate knowledge of that schedule.
Andrew Smith knew. He was watching his old house get torn down. Luke knew it's his site. Any of their employees could have known.
Exactly.
So Jet researches the hammer, the Colby hammer, and it turns out you can't buy it separately. It's sold only as part of a 60-piece tool set that comes in a black case.
So the killer owns or has access to that specific toolkit. It's a new lead. Find the toolkit with the missing hammer, you find the killer.
It's a Cinderella fit, but with hardware. Meanwhile, the clock is just ticking down. We are in segment 6, current status. It is now Tuesday night. The attack was Friday. The aneurysm will rupture roughly 7 days after the injury.
So she has until maybe Friday or Saturday. She has roughly 3 to 4 days left, and her body is starting to fail.
She's noticing physical changes. One of her pupils is permanently dilated, a classic sign of pressure on the brain or nerve damage.
She's getting crippling headaches. The wound on the back of her head is, and this is a grotesque detail, it's leaking spinal fluid or plasma.
And she's just treating it like an annoyance. She's popping codeine for the pain and just moving on. But emotionally, she's spiraling.
She's manic. She tells Billy at one point that dying feels a lot like living.
That line is so poignant. She's more alive now, chasing this truth, than she seems to have been for the last 5 years of her life.
But the tragedy is that she only found this drive, this purpose, because the finish line was forced upon her.
And her family is falling apart, too. Her mom, Diane, brings coffin brochures to the breakfast table.
Wow. Just read the room, Diane.
Right. And her dad is physically deteriorating from his own kidney failure. The stress is just accelerating everything.
So Jet finally moves out. She goes to stay with Billy because she says she refuses to die in that house with that energy surrounding her.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's look at the board as it stands on Tuesday night.
J.J. Lim, still missing. Sent the sorry text. Wore the wig. Seems like the obvious choice.
Andrew Smith hates the family with a fiery passion, knows the construction site, wore the wig. But was he too drunk to pull it off?
Luke Mason. He lied about his hands. It's his construction site. And he's about to lose his inheritance. He has motive.
And the unknown identity thief. Whoever took out that $30,000 loan, are they connected or is that just a red herring?
And we have the weapon, the Colby hammer, wrapped in a Mason family dish towel, buried under concrete that was poured the morning after the murder.
It feels so close, like all the pieces are there. But the question remains, who hates Jet Mason enough to do this? Or, and this is a chilling thought, was she just the target because she was the easiest way to hurt the rest of the family?
That's the terrifying possibility, isn't it?
Hey.
Andrew Smith said they destroy everything they touch. Maybe killing Jet was just his way of trying to destroy Diane and Scott.
It's a heavy thought. And Jet is just burning the candle at both ends, running on pure adrenaline and codeine. Is the investigation keeping her alive, or is it actually killing her faster?
We can't know for sure, but we know one thing. She isn't going to stop until her heart does.
That is all we have for this deep dive into Not Quite Dead Yet. We are leaving Jet on a Tuesday night, hammer in hand, ready to smash the truth out of this town.
It's a fascinating, if tragic, case study in determination. And it really asks all of us what we would do if we knew exactly when the clock would stop.
Thanks for listening. Keep your doors locked, maybe avoid the pumpkin cookies, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.